People who've seen my other videos know that I talk a lot about the older and culturally specific understanding of fairies as very human-like beings, originally also human-sized beings. No wings, no pointed ears, no any of that. So why do we think fairies have wings? Why is that a thing, particularly in modern pop culture understanding of fairies? So this traces back to the theater. I highly recommend Dr. Simon Young's work, by the way, because he's really dug into where the wings come from and where we first start to see them. But basically, in the theater in the 18th century, early 19th century, we start to see them using wings as sort of visual cue in a play that a particular character was supposed to be a fairy. And it was just a way to kind of clue in the audience that this was the case. Now, angels have bird wings, demons have bat wings in most artistic depictions, so fairies kind of get shoehorned into the only remaining option, which is insect wings, particularly originally butterfly type wings, but you'll see more often now like dragonfly style wings. But this is all originating in the theater. What happens then in the 19th century is it starts to be seen in artwork. And this is a really important thing because this is where everything sort of pivots. So if you look at art in the early 1800s, 1800 to around 1830, you will not see fairies depicted with wings for the most part. Maybe one or two outliers, but generally it's not a thing. You are going to see them depicted often as just tiny little humans. There will be other things used to kind of indicate that they're fairies, or the piece will be named in a way that makes it clear these are supposed to be fairies. What we then start to see in the 1830s and 1840s and the 1850s is a mixed bag. Some artists continue to depict them without wings. Other artists, influenced by theater, start to increasingly depict them with wings. And by the end of the 1800s, as we're getting close to 1900, we start to see the majority of artwork featuring fairies depicting them with wings. It has really, across that century, kind of taken over the public imagination. It's an easy way for an artist to indicate this is a fairy. And once that happens, we have it in theater, we have it in art, then we start to see it in fiction, particularly coming in the early 20th century, late 19th century, early 20th century. Peter Pan is a great example. We start to see this idea that fairies are very tiny and have wings, but it all originally comes from theater costumes. Once it becomes kind of a common idea across pop culture, we see it in art, we see it in fiction, it still takes about 60 to 70 years before we start to find anecdotal accounts of people saying that they have seen, encountered, or experienced fairies with wings. So it did take a little while to kind of percolate throughout the culture before we start to see people having actual encounters with winged fairies. Now, fairies have been known to be able to fly across a range of folklore for a very long amount of time, but they were always attributed with flight through magic. They could magically fly through the air. They did not need wings to do this. They could transform a ragweed or a ragwort into a horse and fly through the air on that. They could levitate, they could do whatever. But the wings is kind of a newer idea. And it was really fascinating to sort of trace how this develops across the culture and then how it starts to be seen and perceived into actual belief, actual folklore.